Is chanting names and verses from the Tanakh, the Bible, a legitimate practice?
The matter of relating to the Torah, to Pesukim, verses in the Torah, in some kind of magical and fantastic way. In other words, that by chanting a particular verse or by doing some other practice of that sort, one can achieve certain ends. This is actually mentioned by the Chachamim in a number of contexts. First of all, we should mention here the Mishnah in the second perek of Masechet Berachot, where it states that a person who read Kriyat Shema lemafreya, kara lemafreya lo yasa, he who read Kriyat Shema, the particular sections of the Torah that we read every day, twice a day, if a person read these backwards, that is to say, reading the words in the opposite, in the reverse order, one does not perform the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema by so doing. Now that itself is straightforward enough. The question is, why would anyone want to do so? After all, what would bring a person to take a parasha from the Torah, such as Kriyat Shema, and read it backwards? The only possible answer to this question is that there were people who thought that the Torah could be used, and in fact maybe should be used, so they imagined apparently, in such a fashion as some kind of magic chant and formula that could be used and recited in different ways, and people apparently had certain traditions or practices. They believed that if you said this pasuk in a certain way, either in the normal direction or in the reverse direction, that you could protect yourself, for example, from some kind of danger, or you could accrue to yourself some other benefit. Such practices were certainly in existence in the time of Hazal, and not just in those times. I'm sure they were in existence well before the period of Hazal, before the Second Temple period, and I've no doubt, we know for a fact, that such practices have existed and continue to exist, unfortunately, to this day. And Hazal were aware of these practices and did not approve of them at all. I recall that on many occasions when I have prayed on Rosh Hashanah in a Temani minyan, a Temani synagogue, on Rosh Hashanah as part of a tefillah for parnasah, for livelihood during the coming year, the following practice was done by the congregation, unfortunately. And this, I should mention, is referring to a Baladi minyan, where many, not all, as we are about to mention, but many of the practices and customs based on Kabbalah that were accepted by some parts of the Temani community, some of the Temani communities over the last few centuries. In the Baladi communities, this was less the case, but not by any means entirely so. So the practice that I saw on a number of occasions was this. There were a number of prayers, many of which are very suspect in my eyes. I won't go into that now. But a particular pasuk, a verse from the Torah, was quoted. This is from Perek Lamed Teth, chapter 39, the book of Bereshith, Genesis. And the pasuk here describes Yosef. Yosef, of course, being in Mitzrayim and being in Egypt, he was very successful as the overseer of his master's household. And the pasuk says, "Vayehi Adonai et Yosef," and Hashem was with Yosef. In other words, he blessed his actions. "Vayehi ish matzliach," and Yosef was seen by all to be someone who succeeded at what he did. "Vayehi bevet Adonai ha-Misri," and he was in the home and he was running the household of his Egyptian master. This pasuk is chanted in certain communities in the reverse order. In other words, instead of reading the pasuk as we just did, they read it Hamisri Adunal Beveth, Wayihi Masliach Ish, etc. The pasuk is totally reversed, and this is obviously being done because it is considered by whatever very dubious authority made such a claim. It was considered by some to be some kind of magical formula for guaranteeing parnasa, just as Yosef was successful in such endeavors. In the Torah, as we all know, there are many statements, explicit statements, outlawing and banning any form of avodah zarah. Now, avodah zarah is often translated as idol worship, but this is not true. This is a very misleading and only a very partial translation and explanation of what the term means. Literally, avodah zarah means foreign worship, but it even means more than that. The concept is broader than that. Avodah zarah includes any kind of attempt to bring about a certain result by way of some form of magic or wizardry or any such practice. And therefore the Torah outlaws specifically various practices, and one of them is known as a hover. The Torah says that one may not be a hover. Now, what is a hover? Rambam writes in Hilchot Avodah Zarah v'Hukot HaGoyim in the 11th chapter, Ezehu hover, what is a hover that the Torah prohibits? Zeh she'medaber bidvarim she'enam lashon am, a person who uses words and phrases which are not any intelligible language. Wa'en lahem inyan, and they have no obvious and plain meaning. In other words, these are some sort of mystical, magical formulae. Umma'ale al da'atho, and he believes besichluto, because of his great foolishness and stupidity and the fact that he is willing and wishes to be convinced of such things. She'otan ha'devarim mo'ilim, he believes that such things are beneficial, that they can bring about this or that benefit or result. Ad shehem omerim she'ha'omer kach v'chach al ha'nahash or al ha'akrav eno mazik, and therefore they say that if a person uses such a formula, chants certain words, when he sees a snake or a scorpion, for example, that this snake or scorpion is thus neutralized, will certainly not harm them, for example. And if a person chants a different formula directed towards a particular person, that this acts as some kind of protective force, so that that person will not harm one in any way. All such actions are called ma'aseh hover, the actions of a hover, a person who dabbles in such magic and wizardry. And this is something which the Torah very plainly outlaws. It should be noted that Hazal were very much aware of the fact that many of the common people very seriously believed in such practices. And although Chazal were very much opposed to such things, they nevertheless knew they could not uproot these things completely, certainly not in all cases. And therefore we find another interesting halakha in the Talmud, which Rambam quotes. He writes, Misha neshacho akrav or nahash. If a person was bitten by or stung by a scorpion or a snake, mutar lilhosh al mekom hanashicha wa'afilu b'shabbat. One is allowed to whisper. This was a practice that was quite widespread in those times, that some kind of person supposedly versed in such things would whisper certain chants and words and formulae, putting their mouth next to the place on the person's body where they were bitten, and this was supposed to somehow save the person from death or from being harmed seriously by this bite. And this is allowed even on Shabbat, when normally we do not do things which have to do with healing and medical practices. Not because there is any truth in this, as Rambam says, even though it is clear that these practices are of absolutely no value, and they bring about they have no benefit, and therefore it is totally and utterly to be disregarded. Nevertheless, because people believe in these things, and this person, has now been bitten by a venomous snake or scorpion, and anything we can do to calm him, to allay his fears, is something that we want to do. We wish to do such a thing in order to prevent possibly his situation becoming more severe, because if he is in a panic, which causes, for example, the heart rate, the pulse, to increase, and this causes, for example, the poison to be more quickly and more thoroughly distributed throughout the body, etc. So anything that we can do to calm this person, we are allowed to do. Even such a practice as this, which is of no value, and in fact is asur, is something which is prohibited by the Torah. This is similar to the halakha, which states that if a woman in labor wishes to have a candle lit, wishes the light turned on for her on Shabbat during labor, because this calms her down, we are allowed to do so. And even if the woman is blind and does not therefore see the light herself, but she knows that the light has been switched on and the people around her therefore will be able to see what they need to do, etc., and this causes her to be more relaxed and calm and confident, we are allowed to do so on Shabbat. We must do so on Shabbat, in fact. And the same is true here. This is something which is asur and of no value and has no meaning. Nevertheless, because people believed in it and it therefore had a psychological effect on them, it was permitted. But we see from all of this that Hazal discounted such practices entirely. More particularly with reference to the question of pesukim, using pesukim from the Torah for all kinds of purposes, Rambam writes in the next halakha, this is in again chapter 11, halakha 12, Perek Yud Aleph, halakha Yud Bet, Rambam writes, Halohesh al hamaka v'koreh pasuk min Torah. A person who whispers rather than using some kind of magical chant, some unintelligible words, he takes a pasuk from the Torah, either in its usual order or in the reverse order, it makes no difference, and whispers those words from the Torah on the place of the wound or the cut or the whatever ailment exists on a child. Often it could be a child, it could be any person. Or a person who reads pesukim, who chants pesukim from the Torah in order to calm a child or to achieve some other kind of medical result. Or someone who takes a Sefer Torah or tefillin, which is like a mini Sefer Torah, and places them on a child, on a small child, on a baby, bishvil sheishan, so that the child will fall asleep. In other words, this is using the Torah or tefillin for some worldly purpose, in this case of a medical nature. Lo dai lahem shehem bichlal habarim umenahashim. Not only are these people guilty of dealing in magic and wizardry, things which the Torah outlaws, ela shehem bichlal hakofrim b'Torah. They in fact are people who, by doing so, demonstrate they do not really believe in the Torah. Shehen osim divrei Torah rif'uth guf, because they treat the Torah as some form of magic, which is to be used to gain some kind of physical, medical, worldly benefit, such as healing a person from a particular ailment. Ve'enam ela rif'uth nefashot. But whereas the truth is, the Torah is not an alternative form of medicine. The Torah is a system, a truth system designed to direct a person and the Jewish nation as a nation in terms of spiritual and intellectual endeavors, what is correct what one should believe and what one must not believe, and things that one may not practice, things which distance us from Hashem. The Torah is all about spiritual guidance, and not about providing magical formulas for achieving our worldly ends. That is what the Rambam states. On the other hand, Rambam says if a person reads Pesukim from Sefer Tehillim or anywhere in the Torah, anywhere in the Tanakh, so that this, because he knows that reading from the Torah, any Pesuk from the Torah is a mitzvah. It is obviously a mitzvah to study Torah, and this means also reading Pesukim. And one can also read any given chapter or verse in the Tanakh and have the intention, amongst other intentions, that the zechut, the mitzvah of reading Pesukim from the Torah, from the Tanakh, should add to his merit, so that he will be saved from this or that type of damage or misfortune. That is mutar, because we all know that study of Torah and performing mitzvot in general is something which increases a person's merit and is therefore likely to cause Hashem to deal with this person more mercifully and to protect him in different ways, but not as long as one does not see this reading of the Pesukim of the Torah or from the Tanakh as some kind of magical wizardry which a person can use at will to achieve their ends. So we see that, and this halakha, by the way, it must be stated, is by no means a dictum of Rambam, of Maimonides. This is something that is stated by the Chachamim explicitly in the Talmud and in the Tosefta, etc. So that this is a very an entirely authoritative and ancient teaching of Chazal, that such an attitude, such practices with regards to the Tanakh, to Pesukim of the Tanakh, these things are forbidden and to be discouraged.
The production of these videos and maintaining this channel demands much time and money. If you enjoyed this video, please show your appreciation and support. To make a donation, please go to www.machonshilo.org and press the PayPal button, which appears on the upper right-hand side of the home page. To sponsor a video or purchase Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael, please write us at office@machonshilo.org.